Welcome to today's deep dive. I know you've probably got a million things going on right now.
Oh, for sure.
You might be, prepping for a big meeting or commuting, or maybe you're just feeling that familiar buzz of a life packed with a little too much information.
We live in a very loud world.
We really do. It's
Yeah.
constantly loud, it's constantly demanding our attention, and always asking us to move faster.
Right.
So our mission for today's deep dive is incredibly simple, but actually quite rare. Today is an invitation to pause.
It really is a necessary shift in gear, and the material we're unpacking today absolutely requires that kind of mental space.
Yeah, it does. We are looking at a collection of writings titled Stillness That Walks, Message Within Message.
And it's such a beautiful title.
It is. But right off the bat, there's this fascinating disconnect between the title of the book and the reality of the person who actually wrote it.
Oh, it's a massive contrast.
Right. Because when you hear Stillness That Walks, and when you read these deeply introspective, almost ancient-sounding poems in the book, you picture a very specific type of author.
You do.
You imagine this secluded monk or, maybe someone living completely off the grid in a cabin somewhere, spending all day just wandering through misty forests.
Which couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly. The author is Cahyanudien Aziz Saputra, and he is a self-taught software developer.
Yeah.
He's actually the founder of a platform called DNA. And for those not deep in the tech world, this isn't like a meditation app.
No, not at all.
It's a platform focused on digital tools and infrastructure. So he literally spends his nights writing complex code, shaping rigid data logic, and building back-end architectures that countless people rely on.
It's a high-speed, highly technical life.
Very much so. Yet this book, this whole collection of poetry, is his way of letting what he calls and I love this phrase, a long, silent heart finally speak.
What's fascinating here is that contrast. That contrast is exactly what makes the text so compelling. You have someone whose day-to-day life is completely governed by binary logic. Zeros and ones, immediate inputs and outputs. But he's writing a book that actively resists being rushed or easily solved.
That's a great point.
If you look at the foreword, he gives us these very specific instructions on how to approach his words. He explicitly states, and I quote, "This book is not to be read in haste."
Not to be read in haste.
Right. He tells us these writings were born from long days, from losses that were never given a name, and from questions left hanging.
I found his advice in that foreword so applicable to anyone listening right now, especially if you are dealing with the fatigue of modern corporate life or just the everyday exhaustion of trying to figure things out.
Oh, absolutely.
He writes, "Some truths cannot be approached from the front, only from the side slowly, in silence. Let them enter in their own way."
And that is a very difficult concept for a lot of us to accept.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we're trained to tackle our problems head on. If there's an issue at work or in a relationship, the modern instinct is to aggressively debug it, much like fixing a line of broken code.
Right. Just find the error and patch it.
Exactly. But he's suggesting that emotional truths, the really deep stuff like grief or burnout or even profound joy, they require a sort of peripheral vision of the soul. You can't just muscle your way into understanding them.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the first main section of his book, which is titled Root. And I'll warn you, the tone here is incredibly heavy.
It's very grounded.
Yeah, it's searching, it's grounded, and it feels like we are literally buried under the earth. He begins with this rather jarring realization. He writes, "I do not know why, but I find myself awake inside a cave. Darkness, silence. Am I the only one here?"
It's chilling.
It is. He talks about the whisper of dripping water and how with every step he takes, the weight within his heart just grows heavier.
He is capturing that initial completely disorienting phase of entering a season of burnout or isolation.
Yep.
You don't always know the exact sequence of events that led you there. You just suddenly realize you are in the dark and you feel entirely separated from the world above ground.
You're just disconnected.
Right. He uses this vivid imagery of roots struggling to find water and seasons passing without sound. He even writes this line, "The ground of my heart has never been touched."
Oh.
It speaks to a deep systemic depletion, the kind of exhaustion you can't just sleep off over a weekend.
I'm going to ask you about a specific poem in this section, actually, because I've found the metaphor a bit confusing at first.
Okay.
He writes about holding an umbrella. He says, "Heavy, so very heavy, This umbrella feels unbearably heavy.
Right, the umbrella.
Yeah. And meanwhile, he describes the rain walking slowly in joy and the wind running wild and restless, ascending skyward and descending with a smile. But he is just standing there, holding this incredibly heavy umbrella, swaying beneath ridicule, tired and stumbling pain.
It's a stark contrast.
It is. So what does this all mean? Why is the umbrella causing him so much misery? I mean, an umbrella is designed to protect you from the storm.
True, but think about what happens when you hold on to protection long after you actually need it, or when the protection itself becomes a burden.
Oh, I see.
In the context of burnout, the umbrella often represents the defenses we build. Maybe it's a professional persona you have to constantly maintain.
Like pretending everything is fine at the office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a set of unrealistic expectations you're carrying, or your own stubborn refusal to ask for help. It keeps the rain off, sure, but holding your arm up like that for hours, days, or years, it takes a massive toll.
So the natural world around him, the rain, the wind, they're experiencing the full spectrum of movement, but he's just stagnant.
Precisely. He is burdened by the very thing he thinks is keeping him safe. He's just enduring, hoping the heart grows lush and visible eventually. But he's completely exhausted by his own armor.
That makes the emotional climax of this root section make so much more sense.
It really does.
After all this isolation, holding this heavy umbrella, feeling like a withered flower, the narrator reaches a point of total surrender. He calls out to his lineage.
Such a powerful moment.
He says, "Mother, are you proud of me?" He describes voices being eroded by time, and in his despair he says, "I accept," and I become stone.
It's a moment of absolute defeat.
Total defeat. But then comes this beautiful response from his parents, from the ether. They say, "Child, Father is here. Child, Mother is here. It is all right. Let it fall."
Let it fall.
Yeah.
After gripping that heavy umbrella for so long, the instruction from a place of unconditional love isn't to hold on tighter or to weather the storm better. It's simply to drop the defense.
Just let it go.
They tell him to inhale the peace within ridicule and swallow the joy hidden in emptiness.
It's a complete release of expectations.
Yeah.
And for you listening, it brings up a really crucial question about your own life. Where do you find that permission to let it fall?
That's the real question.
Who or what allows you to stop performing and stop guarding yourself? Because we all need that echo of unconditional acceptance, whether it comes from a mentor, a partner, or ultimately just from ourselves.
And it's only after he lets that heavy umbrella fall that the narrative can actually shift. He stops being stone.
Which leads us right into the second part of the book titled
Yeah.
Growing.
Yes. Okay, let's unpack this. The shift in energy in growing is palpable. He writes about moving into a space of joy and glimmering light. He literally notes, they said, this place is very comfortable. This is what we once longed for.
The arrival.
Exactly, the arrival. But here's the contradiction that I honestly did not see coming. He gets to the comfortable place, the happily ever after we are all theoretically striving for, and he realizes he can't stay there.
He has to leave.
He writes that this soul can no longer endure neither endless brilliance nor perpetual silence. He apologizes to the comfort, saying he has stayed too long and he has to keep walking. Why walk away from the light?
Because humans are not built for static perfection. It's a really profound psychological observation.
We think we want endless brilliance and a total lack of friction. We think the ultimate goal of our careers or our personal lives is to reach a state where nothing ever goes wrong.
Right, the dream of zero stress.
But when we actually find ourselves in a space of zero resistance, we become restless. Growth requires seasons. It requires a bit of struggle. The author realizes that staying in the comfortable light is just another form of a cave.
Wow. Comfort is a cave.
Yeah. He has to step back out into the unpredictable elements to truly be alive.
And he certainly finds those unpredictable elements. Soon after leaving the comfort, he describes a drought arriving. The leaves turn crimson. The trees grow pale.
The struggle returns.
But his relationship with the struggle is entirely different this time. Instead of fighting it or holding up an umbrella, he listens to the wind. And the wind offers this amazing advice. It says, "Friend, today will always be the same. Why keep trying to be different? Let it be and walk in ordinary silence."
It's a radical acceptance of the mundane. He's no longer trying to optimize the present moment or fix the drought. As he moves through this phase of growth, he starts recognizing the temporary nature of all things, including himself.
Everything passes.
He sees other souls beginning to appear, growing deeply rooted but constantly dealing with restless noise and sideways wind. He acknowledges that one life replaces another, that the journey eventually ends.
Knowing that the journey is temporary sparks one of the most generous moments in the collection, I think. He decides to leave artifacts behind for whoever comes next.
The gifts for the stranger?
Yes. He writes a list for a stranger. He says, I leave behind a book, you may read it. I leave behind a pencil, you may write with it. I leave behind a song, you may listen to it. I leave behind my heart, you may feel it.
It's so open-handed.
This is beautiful, open-handed offering. But he adds one very specific condition to all these gifts. He writes, forgive me, stranger. I must forbid you to leave the sun without greeting or knowing it.
It is quite unusual for an author to place a firm condition on a gift like that.
It really is.
He is freely giving away his tools and his art to the next traveler. But his one rule is that you cannot ignore the light in your own life.
You have to acknowledge the sun.
You have to practice gratitude for the warmth that exists, even if it's passing. It's worth pausing for a second, if you're listening right now, to consider what you are leaving behind for your team, your family, or the strangers who follow your path.
That's a great reflection.
Are you leaving behind anxiety and rigid expectations, or are you leaving behind something that encourages them to greet the sun?
Okay, as we move into the third section of the book, which is titled SKY, I have to admit I got completely thrown off.
I think everyone does on the first read.
Throughout Root and Growing, we've been surrounded by this natural, almost pastoral imagery. Caves, roots, rain, wind, leaves. But suddenly the imagery takes a really sharp turn.
A very modern turn.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He writes, I gaze at the square light. 10 fingers begin to sing. The screen whispers slowly. I am the lonely sky. I am truly alone. I honestly thought he was talking about a literal window, or maybe playing a piano by moonlight.
This is the moment where his two worlds finally collide. The misty forests fade away, and his physical reality bleeds through. He isn't looking out a window, he's describing a computer monitor.
A monitor?
Yes. The square light is his screen. His 10 fingers singing are him typing lines of code into the night.
That realization completely recontextualizes the entire book. He is a software developer, and he brings the isolation of the cave directly to his computer desk.
Exactly.
He even writes about the expectations placed upon him by the people using his software. He says, you desire perfection. No cracks, no delay. And then he mentions the 5 stars you gave glow faintly like fire, sometimes enough, sometimes only a dying ember of the self.
Those 5 stars.
He is exploring the emotional weight of user ratings, the toll of pouring your soul into an app, and having your worth reflected back as a faint 5-star metric while you code until the rooster calls.
And while he's dealing with those external metrics of perfection, he's also grappling with a profound sense of isolation.
Right.
He writes, we live behind walls watching a quiet light. You are there among thousands of meaningless touches in what I build while night falls without asking.
Thousands of meaningless touches. That phrase is so heavy.
He is recognizing the intense paradox of digital creation. He is building logical architectures that thousands of people interact with daily. Yet those digital touches are entirely devoid of physical human presence.
So true.
He is connected to humanity at a massive scale through his software, but sitting alone in his room in the dark, he is completely isolated.
He is searching for human meaning within the rigid binary logic of his work. He actually describes it as rowing an ancient black bird across an empty ocean of data.
What an image.
But what I love is that this doesn't end in despair. Despite the isolation, despite the exhaustion of guarding that square light until dawn, he reaches a place of profound self-acceptance.
He does.
He looks at himself, perhaps reflected in the dark screen of his monitor when it finally turns off, and writes, I see you, my own extraordinary self. You feel whole, and every flaw becomes a blessing.
That is the true climax of the journey. He transitions from seeking validation through 5-star ratings and perfect code to finding wholeness within himself.
It's a beautiful shift.
He realizes that the machine, the code, the screen, they are just mediums. He concludes that the bridge is woven by threads of the heart.
Threads of the heart.
Even through fiber optic cables and back-end servers, the connection between the creator and the user is fundamentally a human one.
He ends that section with a really humble gesture to the reader, or perhaps the user of his software. He says, though your body cannot be touched, I can only offer a breath of words at the end of night. Thank you for taking one more step.
A breath of words.
He is writing code by day. But this poetry is his breath at the end of the night. It's his way of reaching out a human hand through the screen.
It highlights how we all exist in multiple realities. We have our professional, structured lives, our own versions of writing code or managing tasks, and then we have our internal emotional lives, the roots, the drought, the search for meaning. Cahyanudien Aziz Saputra shows us that these worlds don't have to be separate. You can bring the depth of a poet to the keyboard of a developer.
So tracing this journey from the beginning, we started deep underground, trapped in the dark roots of exhaustion, holding that unbearably heavy umbrella of our own defenses.
And we learn to let it fall.
Yes, we learned to let it fall. We moved through the restless phase of growing, discovering that static comfort isn't the goal, and that we must leave our art behind for strangers.
While greeting the sun.
Always greeting the sun. And finally, we ascended to the sky, which turned out to be the glowing square light of a computer monitor where a late-night coder weaves a bridge of the heart to thousands of invisible users.
And the physical book itself reflects this entire journey in a beautiful structural way. After all these profound poems, the author includes a final section titled Heart Words.
Oh, I love this part.
It is simply a blank page. The text just says, "This space is for you to write what you cannot say."
He literally makes space for the reader's own stillness.
He builds a platform for you, yes. And in his closing note, he leaves us with a thought that perfectly captures the essence of this deep dive. He writes, "Nothing needs to be concluded. Nothing needs to be finished. Some things are meant to remain suspended like an unanswered prayer, like a step that has not yet found its direction."
That's so freeing.
It really is. It's a reminder for you listening that your career, your personal growth, much like this book, is an ongoing walk. You don't have to have it all neatly wrapped up by the end of the day. It's okay to just be in motion.
It's an incredible testament to the enduring human spirit behind the screens we stare at all day. And it brings us to a really poignant place to close.
The author wrote this entire book as a message in the mist for a stranger. He left behind his book, his pencil, his song, and his heart. So if your own long, silent heart were to leave behind a breath of words tonight, what would it say? And whose square light are you hoping it reaches? Something to think about as you get back to your day.